guys, it's Rick from Rick Adkins, water media artist. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do a water media painting using the supplies that came in the April 2021 sketch box. And what I'm doing right now is I'm starting off by sketching out a poppy using the Staedtler pigment liner, and this is in dark brown, and it's an 0.5 millimeter lead. Why I can't say that. Alright, so basically any flower or object that you're going to do, you're going to break it down to a basic shape. So basically with the poppy, it's going to be kind of an ovalish round shape. And so I've kind of sketched that in a little bit. But I've come back and I'm starting to build up that poppy by breaking it down into different shapes and separating all the little petals out. And I've added in the stem and I'm finishing off that. And I'm going to come in and add in where I want my folds to be and start doing some cross hatching and hatching marks to add in where the shadows are going to be. Because we want to go ahead and kind of define all the areas that we know that are going to be more in shadow, because it will help us when we start the painting process and coloring process to know where our shadows are. So I'm just going to do a lot of cross hatching right here, and I actually like this pen a lot. I love that dark brown color. It was really fun to play with. I have some black, just the black ones, and I think I have some sanguine if they're not dried up. I don't remember. But I really like this black one. I'm going to add in a few little marks on the stem to signify the little spikiness on the poppy stem. And we're going to keep building up our cross hatching and our shadows and our folds, because anytime you have a fold, you're going to have some shadow in that area along with a highlight next to it. So that's what we're doing. Right, so I'm going to keep sketching this in, adding in my little hatch marks. I kept this really simple with the hatching and cross hatching. There's a lot of different techniques that you can do with pen and ink, where you can do stippling, you can do all kinds of other techniques to create those shadows. But I wanted to keep this really simple because I really want the aqua inks from Marabou and the other watercolors in the set to really be my workhorse for this painting. And I'm working on Canson Mixed Media Sketchbook today, so I thought it would be a good all-around media surface to work on, and it can take a lot of abuse. Really, it can. I was very impressed at that. Alright, so we're going to finish up our little drawing, add in a few more little lines in our shadows and our folds. Define our shadow shapes. Anytime you're looking for a drawing, you want to look for your shadow shapes. And all that means is the shape of the shadow, you want to kind of sketch that in, and then you can add your darks. Anytime you want a darker subject with a pen and ink, you're going to go over it a couple times in different directions with your hatch marks. All cross hatching is hatching lines one way and then coming the opposite way with on the same media over those same lines to create a darker tone and value. And then, as I've said before in other videos, painting is all about values. Alright, so I've got the poppy sketched in. I'm going to dry the ink with my heat tool. You can let it dry if you want to. I just wanted to speed up this process, so I'm using a heat tool to dry that ink so that it doesn't smear, because it really wasn't a waterproof ink. So I had to dry it first to make sure that nothing would smear out. Alright, so I'm flooding the paper with just clean water, and I'm going to work petal by petal. So I'm just putting clean water on that one petal with the Silver Brush Crystal Series Filibert, and I had a size 2. This is a classic and versatile brush, great for filling in wider areas and making thin lines. Alright, so now I'm coming in with the aqua inks, and I'm using the Sunshine Yellow color, and I'm just dropping that color in and kind of pulling it out and letting it kind of flood on the paper and pulling it down to create a gradient wash. And when we were painting flowers or anything, and especially a water media, you're going to work one section at a time. So that way it doesn't flood into the other areas and you don't get colors where you don't want them. Now I'm dropping in some of that Patero red. I cannot say that. It's a nice, when you mix it with that sunshine yellow, you get a nice pretty orange color. And I'm working on the folds of the petals and I'm letting that blend out. And what I'm doing is I'm deepening my tones and deepening my values so that I can have a nice pretty orange poppy. I'm putting shadows where the creases would be. I'm just going to let all that flood out. So I'm going to skip this next petal and come to that bottom one because I have a spot in it. So I have a gap in between the colors. So when I'm working with the water media, it's not going to flood together. Now I'm using the Ecoline brush marker, and I extremely liked this product. I have never used the Ecoline brush markers before, and this is in the chartreuse. I was really impressed. I really enjoyed how much pigment it put down and how well it flowed out. I was super, super happy with that. So I'm coming back in with that pale yellow. This might be quinacridone gold, adding the little shadows. I'm skipping over a petal, and I'm putting in the quinacridone gold and more of that chartreuse color. I'm adding the chartreuse this time with just the marker, and I'm going to pull it out with just some water and kind of let those blend together. So I'm using the sunshine yellow and the chartreuse. I'm pulling that out, making our little different values. So we have a nice range, but you can see how intense of a color you get with that Ecoline marker. I would definitely I'm going to hunt down some more of these markers, and I'm probably going to purchase some just to play with. I really like those. Alright, so I'm going to drop in some more of the Parallel Red. And in our shadow area, because we want that nice and dark. And anytime you're working in water media, remember that you're working in layers. And you have to let one area dry, and then you're going to build up more ink or product on top of that so that you can intensify the color. I'm now going to let this paper, I moved the paper up so I can kind of help that flow a little bit better and mix together. If I could talk today, words are hard, y'all. I just got off work a little bit ago, and I have been trying to do this voiceover for a week and a half, or 2 weeks. Alright, so I'm going to dry that area and dry what we've already done. Water media does get a little lighter as it dries, so be aware of that. So that's something you want to be aware of. And a good rule of thumb is when you think you have it dry, you're going to take the back of your hand and touch it onto the area. And you can tell if it feels cool to the back of your hand, then the paper is not completely dry. So it has to feel cool to the back of your hand before it is dry. Alright, so we're going to flood in. I put just some fresh water down. And I'm flooding in some of that Peridot Yellow and Quinacridone Gold mix that I made up on the side in a little palette. And I'm just going to flood that in and let the ink do its work. Alright, I'm skipping to a petal that we've already done. I'm going to put in more of this color. And I'm just brushing that in, moving it around a little bit, get our tones in. I'm going to drop in some more of the Peridot Yellow, or Peridot Orange. Peridot Red, Peridot, however the hell you say that, I don't know. But we're going to drop in some more of that red color. I suck at saying this name. So we're going to take and do this other little petal, and then we're going to come back over here on the top, and we're going to do this little fold in the flower. And we're going to drop in some of that orange mixture. And we'll I try to let the ink do the work, or the water media, but sometimes I just have to move things around to get it to flow where I want it. So I'm going to drop in some yellow, let those colors kind of mix together a little bit. And now we are mixing up some color. I've got my Daniel Smith stick out there. Oh, okay, so what I've done is I took the Daniel Smith stick and mixed it with the, what's the color? Sunshine Yellow, and created a green color. And all I did to do that was I sliced off just a little bit of the Daniel Smith watercolor stick in the palette and put, let it kind of dissolve in the water. And so now I made a darker shade of yellow or green, and I'm coming in and put it in the shadow areas. I found that it was really good to like just slice off a little bit and let it kind of melt into the water. I thought it was what I tried on another project just using it as a stick, and it's very chalky. I will try to link the unboxing video where I did experiment a little bit in the sketchbook in the description below and in a card right here. Alright, so we're doing the same thing, and hopefully I move this painting down so we can actually see everything. But I've wetted the paper, and I'm dropping in the yellows and the creases and folds, and now I'm dropping in our red. There we go. So that I flipped it over so the red's going to flow down into the yellow. And all I'm doing right here is I'm just kind of touching the tip of that brush into my wet paper so that it just flows. Water media will only move where there's water on the paper. So that's one reason you want to skip around each area and not do a petal right next to each other. You want to have it where it doesn't, because again, like I just said, water media flows where there's water on the paper. Alright, so we're doing that last little petal with our first layer of color. I'm going to flip it back around, and we're going to kind of sop up some of this extra color. And I'm going to dry this. And all you do to sop up color is you take a clean brush that's got a little bit of water in it, you soak the water out, and just kind of touch it to it, and it kind of wicks back up into the brush, and you can clean it. Or you could use a paper towel also. Excuse me. Alright, so I'm drying this, and then we're going to come in and start our second layers. And I'm also going to dry it from the back, because it's not a watercolor paper, it's a mixed media paper, so I want to make sure that everything's nice and dry before we move on to our next layers. Alright, should be getting really close to being dry. And now, here we go with some more layering and some fun. Alright, with our second layer, you're going to want to go a little bit darker with your colors. So I'm going to come in with that chartreuse Eco Line marker, and I'm just putting in more color into those folds and where the shadow areas are, and I'm going to blend that out to create a more intense color, because I wanted a little bit more yellow up there than what we had going. So I'm just moistening that ink and moving it out. And that's one thing that I was really impressed with, because it took me a while to get to each little fold, and that marker ink actually stayed wet on the paper and gave me plenty of time to move all the pigment around. So I was really happy about that. Now I'm coming in with a Power Red and Sunshine Yellow mixture, and I'm just going to intensify my shadow areas and let that blend together. And this is probably about 2 parts ink to 1 to 3 parts, 2 parts water. It's about an equal part mixture. I'm going to come back and add a little bit more in those deep shadow areas and soften the edges with my damp brush. Let that color blend. You can see already how intense these colors are. I like super bright colors in my paintings, so I was all up over this. Alright, so we're going to come to the next petal, and I'm going to do that same thing. We're going to use that chartreuse marker into our folds of our flower petals. And we are going to put all that in there. I even added like a little bit of the yellow with the tip of the brush, because it does say on this that you can use the you can try dipping the tip into other pigments to create another gradient. So that's what I was doing there. I'm going to wet all this with my damp brush and move it out into our rest of our areas. And if you want to keep your lighter tones, you just don't go that way, but you're going to soften the edge. We're adding more of our orange color. I think I'm adding quinacridone gold in that marabou. Now I'm going to add some of that Para Red into the Para Red and the quinacridone gold mixture into the shadows area of the folds in this petal, also in the deepest part of the petal. And we're just going to soften those edges out like we've been doing. And that's how you really create your folds and your flowers. It's the combination of your lights and your darks and being right up next against each other. Alright, so we're coming back in with our equal line marker, adding those starts of those folds, and soften that ink out and blend it out. Add some of our powder orange mixture, powder red and sunshine yellow mixture into our shadow areas and blend those out. Soften our edge, just like that. And all I did is I cleaned my brush off and tapped it off on my paper towel and took just that dampest brush right across there. Alright, now I'm mixing up some of the powder red plus some of the the Daniel Smith Genuine Sodalite color. And I've made a really deep shadow. And it's kind of a, it kind of gave you like a brownish violet color. It was a really interesting color combination. But it made a perfect shadow color for underneath these, underneath the poppy, where it's, because this is shot, the picture was shot up under the poppy kind of, where you had more of that, we could see everything. So I'm going to add some of just the pyro and some of the chartreuse and blend those together. Make sure if you are liking these kind of videos that you are commenting below and smash that like button if you're enjoying this, and that way it'll tell YouTube that you're enjoying the videos and that you like this channel, and I will know to make more videos like this, because we want to do what y'all like. Alright, so I'm deepening those shadows a little bit more. I'm going to add some more of that shadow tone that I made. And now I'm taking some of the sunshine yellow and just dropping that in so that I can create a nice orange color up in there. It kind of gives it a glow, and that's what I really liked about it. I found that these Marabou aqua ink, actually you could do a lot of blending on the paper with them, and they really mixed really well. Alright, I'm adding the quinacridone and the sunshine yellow together to create more of a golden sunlit hue. I'm going to drop in some of that pyro mixture that I made with the quinacridone gold in the shadow area. And I'm tipping the paper so that I can get it to flow. Never be afraid to move your sketchbook or your paper, because that can get some really nice blendable looks that way. Okay, we're going to add some of that shadow color into that area. Now we're going to come in with our this is our sunshine yellow and pyro mixture. And again, those are equal parts with equal parts water. But you can tell, I mean, just looking at this already, I can see a huge, brilliant vibrancy to these colors. And I really, really enjoyed this. Alright, I'm drying this one more time. So we move on, because we've got a little close to some of the other petals. And so we need to dry this so that we can move on a little more. Alright, so I'm coming in with a little bit more detail right there. Soften an edge before we dried it completely. I'm going to come in with a little more gold and yellow to make, or just the sodalite and the quinacridone. And I'm making a green. Well, no, I take that back. It's the Soda Light and the Sunshine Yellow because I want it to be a little brighter. You see how I'm touching it with the back of my hand there? That's how I could tell it was dry. So I'm coming in with those colors and adding more intense shadows into our stem and more value. I'm going to take and pick up a little bit of pigment off of my Daniel Smith stick where I can get a little bit darker color right there in that shadow area. And I found that worked really great too, was just to pick the pigment up off this the stick with the paintbrush. That worked really well. That was a fun little technique to play with. And I'm going to go ahead and just add just a little bit more of that, and I'm going to kind of blend it out. It wasn't the easiest to blend out while the paper was wet, I will say. I really enjoyed more of the either the touching the brush to the pigment stick or slicing a piece off. I did get a good color going, but you can tell up there at the top it wasn't the easiest thing to blend out once I drew that on there. But it made beautiful shadow areas. I will definitely say that. And I made a screw up right there, so we're going to just kind of put a leaf in. When in doubt, put a leaf. So I'm going to kind of sop that up a little bit and then scrub it out, but that's not going to work, so I'm going to come back and put a leaf. I think I put a leaf. Yes, I do put a leaf. I thought so. When in doubt, put a leaf, people. Come on. It ain't going to hurt a damn thing. Just put your leaf up in there. Now for this, drawing the veins in, it really actually worked really well to get those shadows in there with the veins. It did have a little bit of graininess to it, but I could live with that. I'm going to add a little bit more lighter color, let those blend together. I'm just blending on the paper. Pick up a little bit more shadow area, add a little bit dark with that leaf is overlapping our stem. I dropped some water on the paper. So I'm going to come back in again with that chartreuse color and add where I want a little bit more intense color and pull it out. Soften those edges. Again, y'all, I'm so head over heels over these Ecoline markers, and I really enjoyed playing with it. Now if I just don't forget I have it, because that's sometimes my problem, is I forget I have a supply, and I'm sure y'all are the same way. Leave me a comment below if you forget you have supplies and you can't remember that until you run across them and you're like, oh my god, I forgot I had this, and you have to play with it then. Do that all the time. Alright, I'm adding some more just straight Pyro Yellow, or Pyro Red, sorry, to my dark shadow underneath that fold to make it nice and intense. And we're going to drop in some more shadow area, that shadow color that we made with the Soda Light Genuine and the Pyro. I'm going to I'm wicking off my brush. Anytime you have water on the metal part of your brush, you want to go ahead and get that off by putting it up against a paper towel to soak that off. Otherwise, you're going to drop it onto your painting and ruin it. Alright, so we're intensifying. We're going to intensify the shadow areas and the folds in the shadows with some of the orange mixtures that we've made. Remember, anywhere you have an area that overlaps the other, you're going to have a cast shadow. So you got to have your shadows in there. It's all about, painting is all about your values. I did mention in another video that a good thing to do if you have a reference photo, and I think you should always take your own reference photo when possible. Don't just Google images to try to do and sell, because you're infringing on someone else's copyright. There are tons of free, copyright-free websites out there that you can find images from. Or the best thing to do is take your own photo. This is actually from one of the photo reference, I believe is from Pixelbay that I'm using today. It's either Pixelbay or I can't remember the name of the other place. I'll try to link them below. Alright, so we're building up more of our shadow, or more of our values with more colors. And again, if you can see right there, I kind of left some of the other areas open so that we can see those colors that's beneath that. I'm intensifying the shadow right there. I'm adding some just pyro. Softening the edge. Drop in some of the color in that fold and underneath where that petal is starting to round up. I'm mixing up some more shadow color and we're going to drop that in. I pretty much have used almost all of the supplies that are in this except the stone ground watercolor that's in Hudson Bay, and we'll use that closer to the end. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Alright, so I'm going to add some more tones in here and some more values to liven this up. And again, I cannot stress this enough, everybody. If you want to really improve your paintings, you really want to improve your value, what your values look like. Study your values. That's the most important thing you can do. If you can get your values right, then your painting will look 10 times better. But you have to all in the values that you do. Values are everything in painting and drawing. I can't say enough about them. Alright, so we're going to intensify some of those shadows. And I will tell you that yellows are not the easiest things to use in a painting because it has such a low value range. Alright, we're going to darken up this last fold in our flower. And I'm using just the pyro yellow or pyro red. There has to be a pyro yellow out there somewhere because I keep saying it. I know there's an orange. Alright, I've added more shade and I'm going to drop that in. Let that kind of blend out and soften a little bit. I'm going to add just a little bit darker in color right through there where I've used that Sodalite mixture. Intensify our little shadow areas right there. Fill in our gap. Drop in some of the sunshine yellow to intensify that orange color where it looks like it's nice and the light's coming right through it. Because poppy has a very translucent feel to it. So it really helped that these colors I could drop a color in to the other color and it would pop out and just mix right there together. I loved how that worked. Alright, this is our quinacridone golds. I'm going over our other areas and intensifying that yellow color, just using that quinacridone gold mixture. And this is just quinacridone gold and water. But it really made the other colors pop out and intensify. Alright, so I'm going to dry this. And again, if you haven't done so already, hit that smash button. Hit the like button if you're already enjoying this video and you made it this far. I give you a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying these types of videos. Alright, so we're drying this. There's a lot of drying in watercolor, people. Or you can let it dry naturally. I'm too impatient to let a painting dry naturally. I just have to heat set it. Alright, now we're going to pull in. I'm going to clean off this palette, center of this palette, because I'm going to pull in that stone ground watercolor. And this is in Hudson Bay Blue. And this is a handmade shimmery medium blue that will help add dimension and life to your artwork. And when I say shimmer, I mean it shimmers, people. So what I've done is I mix that up with, I've wet it because it's in a pan. I've spritzed it with a little water and then wetted that and pulled it into the center and added some of the pyro to make a really pretty lavenderish like shadow color. And I'm putting that in my shadow areas to really intensify that. And the video is not doing what that color is doing justice. I will just go ahead and tell you that. It's completely different. So I've added a little bit more intense red into that to create a different little value going on. So we have some transition. And keep going right there. Softening those edges, moving the values out to get a lot of range. Add in our little side over here, our little shadow area. I really liked how this intensified the shadows. It really made a really pretty color. I probably should have, looking back and watching this tutorial video, I might should have like softened a little bit more in certain areas. Alright, so we're softening our edges and flowing in some more color so we have a nice intense shadows. And I hit the keyboard, sorry y'all. So adding some of that into the stem of the flower, and I'm just intensifying the mixture with a little bit of the yellow. I'm going to add some of the chartreuse in here and mix that together and see what we get. And we got a really pretty, super pretty green color. Super light and bright. It really went well with this painting. And that's one thing I do encourage you to do. I would encourage you to experiment. Just sit down and play. And sometimes you will have the best luck. I told someone the other day, because they were like, I can't draw like you. It takes practice. Just sit down and practice every day your drawing skills. And I will tell you, it's better if you draw from something that you're seeing in real life. That improves your skills more than anything in the world. It's just drawing from life in a sketchbook. Sit down while you're watching TV, sketch objects in your house. I'll sit down and I'll sketch the people on the television program we're watching. And just sketch them in like quick little sketches. Just to improve my drawing skills. Now I'm going to add some splatters. Just for a little fun. I splattered on a little water first, and I'm just going to take and splatter on the colors. I'm starting with the quinacridone mixture, and I'm adding a little of the just plain sunshine yellow, and I'm going to throw in some quinacridone gold. Just to intensify our shadow areas and brighten up those colors. I found that the quinacridone gold was really good for brightening up things. It really, worked really well. Alright, I'm going to add just a little bit more of the stick in there just to have a little bit more texture in that leaf. Try to soften that out, and doesn't really soften very well. I will say that. If the paper is wet and you put that down, it softens okay, but not completely out. It was much better to just do the mixture. Now I'm going to sprinkle on the powder red, and just some little splashes, just to add a little fun and texture to this whole painting. Nothing, it's in a sketchbook. I'm not going to sell this. I'm just having fun. I probably went a little overboard with the splatters, to be honest, after looking back. But I did like how the colors mixed together on the paper. Alright, so that's it for this video. I'm going to sign this piece in just a second. I'm just sopping up some of the extra color because I didn't like how it was looking, so I just took a paper towel, sopped it up. Alright, so I'm going to dry it, and then we're going to sign it, and this piece is done. If you like this video and you like this channel, make sure you hit that, make a comment below so that YouTube knows that you enjoyed this video. And hit that subscribe button, people. I will talk to you later in just a minute after I sign it. I hope y'all have a wonderful day and week, and I will talk to you later. Bye, guys. Love you. Okay, so one more thing after, all this, I decided to come back and deepen that shadow area a little bit more. It kind of was fading out. So I just came back and added a little bit more color to it. And I'm going to add a little bit more color right there. This is quinacridone gold and that power red to deepen. I forgot there was a shadow under there that I didn't touch. So I had to come back and get that. And I'm doing that as I'm drying this painting. I found that this was very easy to do that. Alright, so let's dry this back, get it completely dry, and then we're going to sign this puppy. And I'm just going to use that Staedtler fine liner and outline a few of the items to really define everything. Especially that leaf that, you know, ours our messed up leaf. Come back and intensify some of our hatching lines and outlines. We have a little bit more shadow going on. At this point, I probably should have just left it alone. Honestly and truly. Well, we're just going to add a few more little hash lines, and we're going to sign it, and we're done with this painting today. Alright guys, bye.